so if the 2 minutes and they each answer the question,
Yes.
is there a chance for rebuttals
No.
or no rebuttals?
No rebuttals.
That way we can get through more of these.
Yep. That way we get to more people's questions, and then no rebuttals, just 2 minutes each. That's it. Move on to the next question. And then, will there be closing statements? No one told me that.
They can, yeah.
Yeah, so they'll each have closing statements. So if there's anything they really want to address, then they can do that.
And I'll alternate, so if I ask Penny the first question,
Alex,
she'll get the first one, the second, next time.
I thought so, but I thought I'd ask because I'm here when you.
And I'll be moderating town meeting, so you'll all see me there.
All right.
Thank you, Alex.
So thank you. Are we ready? Ready? So, welcome everyone. At this point, we'll give Penny up to 5 minutes to opening statement, and then once she is completed, Anthony, is that who you go? Anthony, Tony? Or
You can call me Tony.
Tony will have 5 minutes as well. So, your start time now.
Thank you. And I get to go first. So for those of you that don't know me, and I'm sure that most of you do, Penny, I was a Pickard, Sampson. I grew up in this town. I'm third generation. My parents were born here. My grandparents moved here. Grew up on farm on the Albion Road and working dairy farm. And when I was young, I was involved in a lot of town activities. My mother started dragging me to town meetings by the time I was 10 years old, and I remember Dana P. Stevenson being the selectman at the time. Went to Mount View, graduated 85, went to Unity College, graduated in 90. I worked several jobs over the course of my life. I've been a restaurant owner. I worked most of my career at MBNA/Bank of America in collections and credit, which has actually served me well as a selectman doing a lot of financial business, and also has served me in assisting people with general assistance and redeeming their foreclosed properties when they've fallen behind on their taxes. I consider myself solutionary. I'm always looking for solutions to problems. I consider myself proactive versus reactive. So I'm always looking for something for down the road. Is this going to happen down the road? So by being proactive, you can avoid problems in the future. I believe that I listen to all the citizens, and while we'll never ever agree 100% of the time, I do listen. And just because I disagree with you does not mean that I don't hear what you're saying. My husband, who's sitting over there in the corner, thank you for coming. He just stuck his tongue out at me. You know, even we don't agree 100% of the time. But that doesn't mean I don't hear what he's saying. I've been very involved since the get-go. In my 9 years now on the select board, I've only ever missed 7 meetings. Some of which I was in a coma, so I kind of couldn't have been there. And then surgeries, and I missed one coming back from 3 days of testing in Boston. So I consider myself very committed to the town. In addition to selectmen's meetings, I've attended multiple other meetings for multiple other committees. I'll save the rest I think for my closing.
Okay, so Tony, you have 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
some of you don't know me, but I'll introduce myself. My name is Antonio Avila. My parents are Portuguese immigrants, came to the country around the 70s. I relocated to Unity, Maine in 1999 when I officially opened my business, which is TA's Automotive up on the hill. I have 2 kids. Part of the reason I got involved in town politics, believe it or not, was Penny's father. He used to be a selectman in town, Charles Pickup. He had a wholesale garage here in town. We talked quite a bit, and he told me to start coming down to the meetings. So I started going down to meetings, and before I know it, I was on the committee here and a committee there, and worked my way, I think, through pretty much every committee that we have now. And then I decided to take the big step and apply for the position of selectman. Part of the reason being is some of the financial things I couldn't understand that the town was doing. It was short, their moves were short, it wasn't thinking of the future and stuff, and I decided that I'd get involved because I didn't think the town was running like a business and stuff. It should run like a business, because unfortunately for the citizens, if the town was run like a business, we end up carrying the mistakes on our shoulders on our tax bills and stuff. And I dedicated plenty of time doing different things through being selectman, and even before I was a selectman, I helped out here and there in the community and stuff. Some people ask me why I stepped down as a selectman, and it was pretty obvious that I wasn't getting much done on the board, and we had multiple issues and conflicts that would come up quite often. One of the biggest deterrent, I really enjoyed working for the people. One of the biggest deterrent I had was we had an incident down at the horse ring, and that was a straw that actually broke the camel's back there. I really didn't feel that I should be on the board. I couldn't do my job and think it was being done correctly, and I stepped down from it. After that, I decided that to come back and run against my opponent and try and clean up some of the messes that I believe that were going on in town and stuff. And that's why I'm here today. That's it.
Okay, so what will happen now is I'll be asking a question to each of you. It'll be the same question. You'll have 2 minutes to respond to it, and then once the two have answered the question, then we'll move on to the next one. That way you get more questions in. Some of these questions, like I said, are the same, so if I skip some, it's not necessarily because I don't want to bring them up, it's because it's pretty much the same question, just being asked a different way. All right, so I'll give Tony, since Penny threw the opening remarks.
Speak up a little.
Yep.
Okay.
So, you want
Yeah,
Penny to
sure.
go first?
Ladies first.
You want to go first?
No, I went first last time.
Okay.
All right, so Tony gets the first question. Once I finish reading the question, I'll start the timer. Okay. If a citizen has a problem and the select board does not resolve it, even though it is in the town ordinance, what advice would you give to that citizen for the next steps?
Call the state. Call your attorney general's office.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay.
Penny?
Well, I wish I knew what exactly what the problem was, because every ordinance.
Can you speak up? You can
Oh,
shout back here, we can't hear what they're saying at all.
Usually I'm louder, sorry, Andy. Ordinances are rules laid down by the town. The town has to vote on them. Some of our ordinances are outdated. If the selectmen have a question about the legal questions, we either get in touch with Maine Municipal Association Legal Department or our town attorney. In the past, we've had one person say that we weren't following the ordinance, but in reality, what it was they thought we should enforce a covenant in a deed. That has nothing to do with the town. So, I wish I had an example of what they were particularly talking about. But certainly, they can address it with the selectmen, and if they feel strongly that we're not following the ordinance, they can contact an attorney or the Attorney General's office.
Next question, Steve Buchanan. Recognizing that the recent loss of Unity College's students, faculty, and payroll has had a major impact on the town, what are your ideas and priorities for revitalization?
Well, to be honest with you, other than losing the students, it's had no difference in the actual tax revenue of the town. We still get the same amount of tax revenue from the college that they paid before. One would have thought that our state revenue sharing would have decreased, but it actually increased substantially over the last 3 years. And state revenue sharing is an amount that we get from the state based on our sales tax, which helps offset your taxes. It's unfortunate with the college closing, we've lost a lot of volunteers, and volunteers equal money for the town. Their services are of financial benefit. There are still students at the college. They are working on increasing the on-campus number of students. There are still faculty at the college. It's unfortunate that they've moved their headquarters to Pineland at New Gloucester. We have previously met with President Corey. At this point, our hands are tied. We have no say in what the college does with the college property. All we can do is continue to market the town and hopefully bring more students to campus.
Yeah, recognizing that the recent loss of the Unity College's students, faculty, and payroll has had a major impact on the town, what are your ideas and priorities for revitalization?
I think we lost a big part of the community when we lost the college. The statement of it really hasn't affected anything, that is not correct. It's been affected the fire department, the ambulance department, it's affected the local stores in town. They're having a hard time finding employees to work at those places. Fire departments are having a hard time to find volunteers to help out, so is the ambulance. The fact that it hasn't affected us regarding capital funding there, like Penny said, well, if you think about it, COVID hit and what happened, everybody from out of state started buying houses in Maine. Well, obviously that didn't drop down the sales tax there because we sold a booming, we've been selling houses left and right, people paying twice as much what they worked. So we can't really look at that in the long picture and stuff. I would love to sit at the table, see what their thoughts are. We had met with them before, during COVID. I don't know if the board's been up there again or not, but we got probably 40 students up there. I'd say it definitely affected the community and stuff.
Rebuttal?
Nope, no rebuttals. We're not doing that tonight.
Okay.
That way you get more questions. Next question is for you, Tony, to start off. It has been viewed by many people of this town with constant battles between our fire department and the select board. How do you plan to regain the trust of the fire department, ensure that our town is protected, and give equipment for dedicated firefighter who needs to go home safely to their families?
I'd like to sit with the fire department and the selectmen, the whole department and the whole select board together on a round table type and discuss their plans, their future, what they got planned, equipment they need, what equipment that they haven't got, that they wanted throughout the years. Explain to some of them the funding, you know, what we could do with, you know, if there's grants out there, I'd like to look into grants for them. I can't promise them the world, because obviously the board has 2 other members, you know, but I believe they know when I speak, I speak what I feel. I don't go back on my word. That's how I've always been. And the only issue, I can't give them my word that I'm gonna get them all the pieces of equipment that they need, you know, because we have 2 other members on the board. But I'm hoping that we could all sit down over a cup of coffee and see if we could figure out all these needs and stuff that they need and ways to get them the funding, because there is tons of funding out there. You know, I believe Lane's girlfriend at one time was working on grants and stuff, and she got some. She saved the town some money. People need to realize that there's free money out there.
Yeah, the question. It has been viewed by many people in the town of the constant battles between our fire department and the select board. How do you plan to regain the trust of the fire department, ensure that our town is protected, and get the equipment our dedicated firefighters need to go home safely to their families?
I don't believe that there's been constant battles between the selectmen and the fire department. I think there have been several conflicts between the selectmen and the fire department administration. We absolutely appreciate the fire department. I have reached out to members. What can I do personally to make the relationship better? But when you have a fire chief who belittles and berates the selectmen on social media and has me personally on more than one occasion, it's very difficult, and I have tried multiple times. For the last several years, I've taken them Christmas presents. I've advertised their functions. I've talked to members, again, what can I do to make the relationship better? It's hard when the selectmen are blindsided, like we were this year at the budget meeting, when the fire chief requested a $100,000 plus increase. We also felt the need to rebut the fire chief's written report in the annual report. And it's unfortunate, it really is unfortunate, because they're a very vital piece of our town, and we absolutely appreciate the commitment of the fire department.
Now how do I stop this? Oh, there we go. Okay, so, let's see. Next question for you, Penny. What do you feel are improvements or efficiencies the town should implement, or is everything operating efficiently?
That's an interesting question. There are some things that we do efficiently, getting things done. Sometimes the wheels of government unfortunately move slowly, and people expect things to happen like this. For instance, fixing the Berry Road Bridge. People expected us to just be able to, well, it's something that has to be budgeted for. There's contracts that need to be written, and there's bidding to be put out. So yeah, it's a process. I wish things like that could be more efficient, but unfortunately sometimes it takes time. I think we work pretty well together, getting things done as a team, and We are a team. We don't always agree, but when we can find a compromise, we can get a lot of stuff done in this town. Since 2015, when Emily Newell was on the board, we got your roads fixed. And you gotta admit, they're a whole lot better now than they were. We know the gravel roads need work. That takes money. We put a lot of investment in the gravel roads last year. Can I say the rest of the question?
Oh,
Everything can always operate better, which is why I'm constantly researching and looking at what other towns are doing. I have read through other towns' warrants and their meetings, and sometimes we can get info from other towns that helps us.
All right, do you need a question?
Yes, sir.
What do you feel are improvements or efficiencies the town should implement, or is everything operating efficiently?
That's kind of a vague question. It could be roads, it could be town office, it could be fire department, it could be anything. Roads, I think we need better planning on. I think there's been a lot of work that's been pushed to the side that shouldn't have been pushed to the side, and we're gonna pay the price in the near future, pretty soon actually. Driving around town, you can see what we're dealing with. There was a plan, the plan never got pushed through. Emily worked very hard on that plan. None of the maintenance part was done to it. Town office wise, I think there's a lot, there's stuff that can be done with the website that I've been noticing a lot of people complaining about. The other issue, I think transparency is a big thing that needs to be worked on at the town office. We need more transparency. I think people need to realize that they work for the citizens, not for their name tag and stuff. I think a lot more open. I'd like to see video selectmen's meetings, planning board meetings, that way people can watch them at home, be aware of what's going on in the community, because let's face it, a lot of people have jobs and they have a hard time leaving their kids and family to go to a meeting. There's a vague, long string of things that I believe that can be run more efficient. You look at the numbers that we spend on electricity. Penny got us LED lights, that was a good start. I think there's stuff that can be done, I know a lot of people don't like solar, but I think there's a lot that can be done with some solar panels that will cut back on costs. And we got heat pumps that I believe we should get some more at the firehouse and other places and stuff. So that's a long spectrum of things that can be done.
All right, question, start with you this time, Tony. What do you think about the homelessness in Unity, and how will you help them?
Well, it's kind of hard to help the homeless in Unity. We don't have a shelter. We don't have, I think basically we count on state workers to help with that stuff. I'm not much sure how the homeless thing, but we could host maybe job fairs. I don't know what's available out there for resources. I feel really bad for the homeless people because we could be homeless. Anybody could be homeless. One wrong financial decision, even not by you, by your employer. And you put all their eggs in one basket, next thing you know, your job is gone, I hate, to be honest with you, I hate seeing homeless people. I feel really bad for them. I know that some of them have other issues, mental issues and stuff, but there's some out there that don't. They just got dealt a bad hand, and think about it, you get a homeless person, he can't take a shower. How do you want him to go get a job? Somebody shows up at a workplace and they haven't, they got no shower, they got no way, they ain't got a cell phone. How are they gonna get a job, It's hard, you put down an application, if you've got no phone, but how are they gonna contact you and stuff? I really feel bad. I don't see too many. We've heard of a couple of homeless camps in town. From what I was told, they got shooed out of town and stuff. I don't know what's there for help. I think, if we could, if there could be some help with the state, you know, that'd be great. I know there's a couple of people in the community, I believe, social workers and stuff, but that's about it.
Benny?
So having been the GA administrator for the last 9 years, I actually encounter it, not a lot, but on occasion. And I try to provide them with resources. Oftentimes they don't have a place to live, and you can't just hand them money. So we try to hook them up with resources. We don't have a homeless shelter. We do have low-income housing, which does help to a point. We have the food pantry and then the open door on Thursdays. We also keep emergency food boxes at the town office. We did have one homeless encampment on college property going down the Canopolis Road this past summer. It had to be cleaned up because there was a substantial amount of drug paraphernalia there, and the college went and put up no trespassing signs. Nobody actually spoke with them, but they realized that the camp had been discovered and they moved on. Homeless can absolutely happen to anybody, and I know I've been there to help them on a personal level and a professional level, being the general assistance administrator.
Right. These two questions sort of go together, so I'm sort of gonna do a synopsis of the both. How do you intend to increase business growth in tourism and Unity to ensure fiscal viability in the future, along with how do you feel the Main Street downtown is successful? Would you, if not, what would you do to change it?
Good question. You get 4 minutes to answer that. I've actually been working on business growth in tourism since I've been a selectman, if not before. As you know, or some of you may not know, I write a weekly newspaper column in the Republican Journal, Unity News. And I have a personal rule to promote at least 3 Unity businesses per week in my column. And I actually get phone calls from people around the state that have read that, and they ask me additional questions. Having a good-looking town is important too, which is why I have taken it upon myself with some of the flower plantings and taking care of them. Fixing our sidewalks was an important piece. One of the things Tony and I disagreed on initially was fixing the sidewalks on Main Street. There were huge chunks missing. And he disagreed with me about fixing them. And I said, how are businesses going to want to invest in the town of Unity if the town of Unity doesn't want to invest in itself? So one day he was driving down the road and a little old lady in her wheelchair had become stuck on the sidewalks on Main Street. So we helped her out and changed his mind about getting the sidewalks fixed. If there was something I could do about Doc Aldridge's house, I would absolutely do it. When I was planting signs there the other day, I noticed the amount of trash just mixed in with the grass. But we have a town cleanup day that I work on with volunteers every April. And I gotta stop now, or I can continue.
Alright. No, it's a loaded question. Here you go, Tony. You need to.
Nope.
Oh, no, okay.
So, one thing I've been involved with and helped create was Unity Business Exchange, which is a group of businesses would sit around the table to try and come up with projects, events to draw people into the community and stuff. We've done one of the things that we brought back was the tree lighting on the intersection there, with Santa for the kids and stuff. That brought in quite a big volume of people into the town. Other things that we've worked on, that actually we're working on right now, I believe, is the Easter egg hunt that we're gonna be doing next and stuff. There's a couple other things. One thing I'd like to concentrate on would be some of the stuff that we already have in the community. You know, we have a beautiful lake, we have trails, we have good hunting. The ATV club, we kind of pushed that through when I was on the board. That was kind of, I can't take all the credit, but I kind of brought it up to the table, and the other two selectmen at the time agreed that they thought it was a good idea. And which was opening up Maine Street, Depot Street, to bring the ATVs, because there's a lot of money that goes right by us up north, you know. I would like to see some of the other trails, walking trails, maybe worked into biking trails and stuff. I know there's all kind of funding out there, grants. Stuff like that doesn't affect us that much. It's better than having houses being built, and people moving in, and, you know, making things really complicated. People come here, spend their money, they leave, and we're still the community that we are. As to the sidewalk, yes and no. Penny wanted to pave quite a bit of sidewalk. Me and Dan actually walked together down the sidewalk, Main Street, and decided that we weren't going to do all of it on this certain section, and because we didn't see anything wrong with it. That's basically what happened.
So, all right. Okay, here's a question. Would you support an effort to increase the number of selectmen from the current 3 to 5? And if so or if not, please explain.
I think it's a great idea. Town our size, how much money that we're moving through the town office and stuff, I think it'd be great to have a 5-person board. The reason I know a lot of people have pushed the subject of town manager is that I have a little issue with that, because the town manager is controlled, because I read the paperwork, it's controlled by the select board. But if we had a council of 5 people at least, I believe we would have more people step up to the plate, because the work would be divided out through all of them equally, and it wouldn't be that much responsibility all on 3 individuals. Part of the other reason is, if you have 5 people, you have more of a diverse thought of mind that would open up better avenues. People could work on different things, you know. Everybody's got their own little niche. That would be my thought. And the other thought is, I haven't been impressed the way the office has been run. And I think it's run a certain way. And by having more people on the board, I think that would not happen. We wouldn't have the turn that we have going on right now. There's quite a bit there, decisions that make no sense. I think, you know, right now, there's a lot that goes on there that people don't realize. And, you know, I think, you know, like the issues we're having with the fire department, you know, I believe that would probably wouldn't occur, because there'd be multiple people having oversight. One of the other reasons I think a 5-person board is, years ago when the college decided they were gonna pull out of town, I approached the board with, I spoke to an individual who gave me a bunch of leads, preventing, trying to slow down them leaving the town. The board did not want to do anything about it. The exact words, we're not doing anything, we're not preventing them from leaving the town, we can't do anything. Which was crazy. Waldo County's biggest employer in our backyard, we just let them leave the community.
All right, Penny. Can you repeat it?
No. A 5-person select board is not a bad idea. The only problem with that is you have a hard time finding 3 people that want to be a selectman. So oftentimes, there's no challenger. And with no challenger, people aren't interested. I'm glad people are here tonight because there's a debate. So I would question whether 5 people would actually want to serve on the select board. People have talked about a town manager since back in the 70s, and the town turned it down at that time. And the basic reason is town managers cost money. And yes, they do answer to the select board, but they do a lot of the human resources work. We have an administrative assistant right now who's very efficient, is a rule follower. The town of Freedom just proposed $98,000 for somebody working 27 hours a week doing the exact same job Carrie does for $33,000. Is my time up?
Nope.
Oh. So I don't think the 5-person select board is a bad idea, but we need community involvement.
So this question sort of goes along with that, which is, do you agree, should we have term limits for selectmen to 2 terms and then take a year off?
No. The reason being, again, lack of involvement, lack of people wanting to be a selectman. The people can always decide if somebody should be removed from office. It's called voting. So if you want somebody to not be a selectman, you can absolutely vote for their opponent, or run yourself, or write somebody else in. And I think experience in the select board office is very important. It's a very steep learning curve. It takes more than a year. I've read front to back the Maine Municipal Association handbook, and you forget a lot of it. I'm still learning new things 9 years in. And usually it's because something comes up. And then it takes research, and more research, and talking to people to find out. I'm good.
All right, Tony.
I think it's a great idea. I think you should be allowed to run at least 6 years, take a term off, which would be because we have 3-year terms and stuff. I think part of the reason is it's good to have new blood in there. You know, you get newer people in there, you get newer ideas, new things. You know, town grows in a good pace. You get the same people in there, you don't get change. You get the same pace that gets put down, and there's a lot that goes on with that. I think, you know, that a 3-year off would be a good thing. And I think you'd have more people step up to the plate with that too, because people get scared that there's a lot of work involved, but when you have a 5-person thing, that work gets spread out further. And in 3 years, you know, giving somebody else a shot, and like Penny said, people get voted in. Well, it'd be nice to have that big space there to see what somebody could do for that period of time in the community. You know, but that's it.
So, Tony, this next question starts with you. What are your plans for dealing with roadside brush growth that is creating dangerous visibility conditions, particularly on curves?
Well, budget-wise, I don't think we can address every road that we have, because a lot of the work has been pushed back quite a few years. But I think hitting the dangerous intersections, the dangerous corners should be priority to begin with. Part of the reason too, brush should be cut back is you think about if, you know, you get snow, comes down, ice melts, the sun doesn't hit the road, you know, it doesn't melt. And what you're doing is you're actually spending more in the long run because you're dumping down more sand, more salt. You're actually causing kind of an environmental issue if you're dumping salt on the ice because it goes downstream, contaminates the lake or contaminates somebody's well. But if you push the brush back, sun gets in, will melt that ice quicker, cause less of a traffic hazard also for citizens driving around and stuff. But I believe the intersections and the dangerous corners should be the first things addressed, pushing back brush and cleaning it. That's it.
Robert Burns of Mice and Men, the poem, Best Laid Plans of Mice and Men, Gang Actigally. We have had plans to do work, and it never seems to fail, but there's always another fire to put out. For instance, this past December, Winter Storm Elliott. We do have plans every year to cut back brush, and we did quite a bit of it last year on roads. But if you don't happen to live on that road, you might not notice. Along with roadside brush is roadside mowing. We signed a new contract last night for roadside mowing. Finding contractors to do this work is getting harder and harder all the time. So I've spent the last month trying to find a grader, grade our dirt roads this year. I put 2 more calls out today. Keep your fingers crossed. But with the mowing, we had an issue 2 or 3 years ago. We had a big spring storm, took down a lot of tree limbs. And those tree limbs remained on the side of the road. And I had found somebody out of Albion to come in, clean up that brush. My opponent didn't want to use that person because they could do it cheaper. So the brush never got removed. The roads did not get mowed, and people were complaining. And at that time, I didn't call out the fact that the brush removing was delayed, hence the mowing, roadside mowing was delayed.
Okay. Different direction. This is with a question mark. Acquire the field of dreams. Would you work to do this? Yeah, that goes you first.
We would love to have that. Absolutely. The town voted several years ago to not acquire the Field of Dreams because of the cost of maintaining it. So if the town wanted the Field of Dreams, I think we'd absolutely support it. The college has no intentions of parting with any of their property at this time. We can't force them to sell it to us. We're lucky that they still let us use it. They tried to get us to sign a memorandum of understanding, and it was very complicated, went back and forth between the president's office, the selectman's office, attorneys. We eventually did not sign the memorandum of understanding because it would have taken away the rights of the citizens. Now, the college, if they do choose to sell the Field of Dreams, by deed, covenant in the deed, have to offer it to the town, first refusal for the sum of $1. So, if the college ever decides that they will part with the Field of Dreams, I would think that we absolutely would buy it and maintain it for the community.
All right, Tony?
I agree with Penny 100%. Everything she said is how I feel. Field Dreams should come back to us. It'd be nice to own it, maintain it, like we maintain other properties in town. I think it's a great asset for the community. It's a draw. I think it could we could operate and sustain it without being a burden to the citizens and the community tax-wise. I think it definitely should come back to Unity citizens and stuff.
All right, question from you, Tony, first. What do you see as the most pressing need in Unity's elderly population, and how should it be met?
I think we got a lot of citizens in town, a lot of senior citizens. I think some of them are bored, they haven't got no place to go. I think it'd be great, I see what I see what Thorndike's done, you know, they're having little game nights and things going on there. I think that'd be great to have here. Unfortunately, our town office is small to hold that. Actually, I think I spoke with Gene about that this week, regarding that. It'd be nice, this building, if we could get it back, using it and having events like we used to have here. I think it'd be great to bring the citizens in, and maybe like once a month have like a sheriff come in and talk to them, you know, if there's any issues in the community that they realize, and you know, stuff like that. I think it'd be great to host, maybe get some senior services to come down, because you know, there's a lot of seniors that don't know, you know, what's out available for resources for them and stuff. I think it'd be a great thing to host here in the community and stuff.
Being the GA administrator, I do deal with a lot of the elderly people. Some of the ones that I work with, some of their most pressing needs are food, help with their electricity, and help with their heating. But many of us are also experiencing that same dilemma. Thankfully, we have resources to assist them. In addition to my general assistance, I do not work for the Salvation Army, but I administer for 5 towns Salvation Army donation money that has gone to help people. Just like our kids, the elderly also need activities. Thankfully, there have been some groups in town that have fulfilled that need. We do have a couple of groups within the county that work with them, and I have reached out to them, one being Waldo County Triad, and the other being Spectrum Generations. One of my former co-workers works for Spectrum Generations, and I've already reached out to her so that we can bring some educational classes, particularly for scam recognition, and other resources that Spectrum Generations can help with. Triad is mostly held in Belfast, where Spectrum Generations goes countywide. But I did work with Lieutenant Matt Curtis on a drug take-back last year. I'm out of time.
Tony?
Yep.
He already did it.
Oh, you already did it. All right. Okay. Okay. You said a lot of the town ordinances are outdated. What action do you propose to correct the problem? Are you working to update the ordinance or leave them as is?
So actually, we were just talking about that the other day. We are planning a public hearing. We've got 3 or 4 ordinances that have been worked on already, that are ready to go to public meeting, one of them being the cemetery ordinance. A couple people, 3 or 4 people, 5 that are on that committee are in attendance tonight, and we put in a lot of work on that, and it'll probably get a lot of discussion. Some of the other ones are relatively simple. It's just language needed to be changed because there's no more Waldo Independent. we don't meet at the church anymore. The big one that we've been waiting for the last year, is the update on the land use ordinance. Tony's last meeting as selectman last year, he brought up the fact that the land use ordinance needed to be updated. I tried my first 2 years to get it done, but we couldn't get the two groups to marry together. So we had a special town meeting at the Snow Dusters. I don't know if it was May. Tony agreed to get the land use ordinance group back together, and that has yet to happen. We are missing 2 pieces of information. So I asked him last night if he could have it ready for a public hearing in April or early May, so that we can put all the ordinances together for one special town meeting.
Tony?
So I think we should review some of the ordinances. I know a lot of them were done when I was on the board. Penny started digging into them. We got rid of a couple of the ordinances. As Penny stated last night, she asked me about the land use ordinance, if I had done the work yet. Part of the reason I hadn't started activating the members was because I felt with the time I didn't want any seniors out, because a lot of our people that were on our committee were older, and it's the holidays too, and really people don't want to be inconvenienced by that. One thing I asked last night was about bringing on the comprehensive plan people. If I should approach them to see if we could work together. I was instructed not to. I was instructed to just get the land use done to bring it to the town. I don't feel comfortable in that. Part of the reason is the land use and the comp plan, it seems to have people have two different ideas. The original purpose of that plan was to be merged together, and it never got merged together. The way I look at it, if we all have to live in the community, we should all have a say in how the community is. And it's pretty obvious there's two different ideas out there of what the town should be like. And I would like to work with everybody, so that way when we go to town meeting, we compromise on the land use, the comp will compromise a little bit, and we could go in front of the citizens and say, we work together on this. This is a community. Everybody has their fair. It's not right that everybody has to live in the town and one side gets more catered to than the other. And that's what I'd like to do, is try and get two committees together.
All right, this one's kind of a interesting one. Tony, what are 3 personal qualities or experiences that make you the best candidate for this position?
3 personal experiences.
No, 3 personal qualifications or qualities or experiences that make you the best candidate for this position.
Well, I think the fact that I consider myself a pretty honest individual is one of them. The fact that I'm a business owner, been a business owner for quite a few years in the community. I'm quick at looking at things and figuring a way how to get them moving and problem solving. Is another one. I try and get along with everybody. I think if anybody that knows me in the community, I speak my mind. You might not agree with me, but that's how I am. That's the truth. I'm sorry, I won't change my opinion. I'll work with you, but I'm not going to tell you I like, eggs that are pretty much not scrambled, because I like scrambled eggs, That's who I am, I don't beat around the bush. If there's an issue, I'll fight for you just like I fight for the other person, And one thing I can say, which is a bad fault, but it is a good fault, I am stubborn, I don't give up, and I pursue a project, I go all the way to make sure it gets done.
I think that was more than 3 things.
Oh, sorry, well.
Just kidding.
Go ahead.
It's just a
Oh,
joke.
okay. You ready?
Yes.
Okay.
You could have included I think some of my strong suits are my research ability, and believe it or not, my writing ability, which has actually helped the town substantially by doing research and problem solving. I admit when I'm wrong, and I've admitted to people in this room when I'm wrong. I've been accused of not being honest. I think my problem sometimes is that I'm too honest. You will always know what I think, and I'm not afraid to talk. Some people have commented that it's always my voice you hear on the in the town meetings, but somebody has to talk, and it's usually me. I'm proactive. I do have integrity. As I stated in my opening, I'm solutionary. I'm willing to compromise. I'm willing to listen. And again, we're not always going to agree, but I hear you.
Alright, so we're coming up on 8 o'clock. And like we said earlier, we'll try to keep this to an hour. There are a bunch of questions here that haven't been asked, but I think that there's a lot of them that have been. Since Penny went first, I'll give you the option. Do you want to do closing first or closing second?
Closing second, go for it.
That's not fair. It's not fair. I went first on the opening.
Okay,
But
so,
that's okay. I'll do it.
okay,
I'll do it for you, Chris.
so we have, we'll allow you 5 minutes, okay?
I don't think I need
Well,
5 minutes, but in closing, we've made in the last 9 years a lot of improvements in this town. There are some projects that I've started that I'd really like to see through completion. And one of my, can't call it a fear, one of my concerns is our TIF is going to expire in a couple of years. And we need to make sure that that is followed through on so that the town is not penalized by not fulfilling its obligations there. My other pet project that I want to see to completion is the Fordyce Field Cemetery that I worked very hard on obtaining the donation, and the cemetery committee has worked very hard on laying out plans for it. I do want to take a minute to address a couple of things that I disagree with my opponent on. And one was the horse ring situation. There are 3 selectmen at the time, myself, Dan McCormick, and Tony. There was an allegation of child abuse at a horse show, not by the lady that runs the horse show. It was reported to DHHS and the state police. They are the legal authority when it comes to that sort of situation. Dan and I did not agree with Tony that the horse show ring, which brings in dozens of people and is a good economic boost for the town, should be shut down. We had no legal authority to, well, we did have legal authority as far as because it's municipal property, but we don't have any legal authority to enforce child abuse laws. So I was accused of condoning child abuse. I was accused of condoning child abuse, not my fellow selectmen who agreed with me. So that was a bone of contention. And I certainly do not condone child abuse. I've worked with children, I love children, I chose not to have any, because I've been babysitting since I was 12 years old. And my mother had my sister when I was 16, so trust me, I've taken care of kids. I've applied for grants and obtained grants for the town. I don't think my opponent has ever done that. I've done research for policy. I don't think my opponent has ever done that. At times we had a hard time getting him to read his emails that were important. And I would like to continue serving the community that I grew up in. And I'm not saying that people from away don't love their community just as much as I do. We appreciate them. But I've always been connected to my town. And I care about it. Sometimes I wonder if I care a little bit too much. And I've taken a lot of flack. We'll call it flack, it's a nice word. While being a selectman. And again, we're not always going to agree. But trust me when I tell you, I have the town's best interest in my heart. I've worked hard. I've been reduced to tears working for this town. My husband can testify, if I let him speak, how much time I put in at home working for this town, promoting this town, assisting businesses in this town, and I would like to continue to do so. I think that's enough time for this.
You have 20 seconds left.
Wow. Took 5 minutes for that?
All right, Tony, it's your turn.
So, I've worked, been part of the town, been on all the committees, as people know. I've never missed a selectmen's meeting also. Penny was sick, she was in the hospital. None of the committee meetings, except I think one that I might have missed, I was ill. So I've been dedicated to all my committees, put all my time just as equal as Penny has. Left one selectman meeting early because I had cattle that got out, and I had to go race over and get them back in. I've been out late hours at night, helping remove brush from the roads to get my fire department back home quicker, sooner, so they can go home with their family. I've volunteered other events in town. I moved here, like I said, and officially moved here in '99 to start my business. I've dedicated all my time in the community. I love the community. I'd love to see it grow and grow positive. I'd love to see the town office be an open book with lots of transparency. People shouldn't feel sad or shunned from going there or asking questions on Facebook. The incident with the horse show down there, I was approached, first time I was approached was actually at the town office. Dan McCormick brought the individual in to speak with us. This individual had, I think, 4 or 5 pages written statement of what occurred down there. The individual running the horse show apparently mocked the situation. My biggest pet peeve is children and homeless people. It's our job to keep them safe. Dan McCormick at the time felt the same way I did. I thought it should not happen at the horse ring, the mocking that went on the intercom. Penny, on the other hand, felt different. We ended up talking to the attorney. We had legal grounds to ship the woman out of the facility. Yes, it brings in economic development in the town. But what cost? Where a child gets abused. And then I had a citizen reach out to me that they are afraid to come out and tell me what they saw down there because of backlash from the people on the board. It was written, it was filed with state police, but it was a shame. And that was the reason I couldn't be on the board anymore. I said, I cannot serve on a board that condones this. And I said, I'm coming back to eliminate the problem. And that's why I'm here today. To run an honest, clean election, just like I want it from day one. I want the town office to be transparent for every citizen. If they have a question, they shouldn't be pushed into the corner. The fire department, fire department wants to buy something, it's the end of the world. Doesn't matter if it's $500. But we could just blow $100,000, no questions asked, on plowing. No questions asked, right? Why is that? Are the rules not the same? You know, why is that? You know why? I'll tell you why. It's all a smoke and mirror show, people. That's what it is. It's all about making you guys think everything's fine and dandy, and really it's not. And that is the truth, right? If it keeps everybody happy in this community, we get her done. But the real things, the real important things, like equipment for our fire department, keeping children safe, that seems to be an issue. And that's why I'm running. And that's the only thing I have to say.
So, you've heard both candidates. Hopefully, you got some thinking to do as far as who you think the better candidate is for the position. My understanding your election is on Friday?
12 to 8.
12 to 8, town office. So, I'd like to thank you all for coming, and hope you have a great evening.
Thank you.